Joseph, what you doing?
I'm just eating dessert.
That's not dessert. It's the new Madolche support.
Does it beat Snake Eyes?
No.
Then it's dessert.
Good afternoon, Jank enthusiasts. I'm MBT, and this is 10-Minute Testing. I've been playing a lot of info format in preparation for the NAWCQ, and I can say with absolute certainty, it might be worth tuning out of the game for the next little bit. While that happens, let's pretend there's something worth playing that isn't evil snakes. Presenting Madolche. So here's the list. As always, I'll give you a background about the archetype, a little bit of a discussion about what I hope the deck can do, and of course, the card by card. But first, this video is sponsored by Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck. I've been shilling Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck for, well, years at this point, and I'm happy to announce I have no intention of stopping anytime soon. By now, they've become the most complete repository of tournament tops on the internet, the best place to jam prog with friends, and of course, still host strategy articles. Recently, they've added a new piece of infrastructure to the fold, a 3-card arena draft, draftable with card pools featuring classic formats, Master Duel, or within any parameters you like. Give it, or any of their other features, a look at www.ygoprodeck.com. With that, let's see if Madolche measure up. Madolche, if you're unfamiliar, is a series of French and Italian desserts and animal sounds, made manifest and mostly sitting on little puzzle pieces. These cuties have previously served under the Queen Tiramisu, which despite being a decade old has an effect that is still powerful today. She can detach a material from the card, shuffle Madolches from your graveyard into your deck, and non-targeting spin an equal number of cards your opponent controls. This strategy's always been off-meta. Powerful but not tiered during the first wave of support, again when Sistart was released at the advent of the Link era, and again during Tier 0 as the best deck at wielding the Vernisylph monsters. Despite all of this, the strategy's always been kind of half-baked, never able to consistently cook opponents. Until now. There's a ton of new Madolche cards in the Infinite Forbidden, but the most important are Meow Karan, an unbelievable searcher and extender, Dessert, a powerful piece of layered interruption, and the next stage in Tiramisu's monarchy, Tiara-a-la-fraise. This card is, well, literally just Tiramisu, but as a quick effect. That might be enough in a format where Snake Eyes plus is literally everywhere but the inside of the deck, so let's give this dish a fair review. So with that, let's get into the card by card. We'll begin with the Madolches. All of these have a shared effect, which is if they are destroyed by an opponent's card and sent to your graveyard, they are shuffled into the deck. Potetting Saussure says if you have no monsters in the graveyard, it can be specialed from your hand, and if special summoned, you can special summon a Madolche from your hand or deck except herself, and if you do, reduce its level by 1, and you can't special summon any monsters for the rest of the turn unless they are Madolches. We've got 3 copies of Angeli, which can be attributed to summon a Madolche from your deck. It can't be destroyed by battle, and it's shuffled into the deck during the end phase. This does put a monster in your graveyard, which turns off Potetting Saussure, but don't worry, it won't be there for long because you're banishing it with Madolche Hootcake. This card can target a monster in your graveyard, banish it, and if you do specially Madolche from your deck, except for Hootcake, your usual target is going to be Madolche Messengelato. This card, when special summoned, provided you have a Madolche Beast on your side of the field, can add a Madolche Spell Trap from your deck to your hand, and wrapping up the lineup is 2 copies of Mangeline, which on normal or flip can add a Madolche monster from your deck to your grip. After that, we've got the Vernisylphs, 3 copies of Flourishing Hills. This card can be discarded alongside 1 monster or a Vernisylph card to add a Vernisylph card from your deck to your hand, and then reborn an Earth monster from your graveyard. Quacky Ducky does something similar. You can discard this card in a monster or Vernisylph card. You can't activate non-Earth monster effects for the rest of the turn, and you get to add an Earth Fairy from your deck to your hand, except for Quacky Ducky, then reborn an Earth monster from your graveyard. After that, we've got spells. 3 Pot of Prosperity, 1 copy of Madolche Ticket, which plays very nicely with Salon and Chateau. Hard to talk about these without talking about them all at the same time, so we'll do that. Madolche Salon, during your main phase, allows you to normal summon a Madolche in addition to your normal summon or set, and if another Madolche card you control in your graveyard is added to your hand or your main deck, you can set a Madolche Spell Trap from your deck, except for Salon. After that, we've got Madolche's Chateau, which when activated, shuffles all Madolches from your graveyard back into your deck. This triggers a number of powerful effects, and it also cleans out the graveyard for cards that care about that. If a monster in your graveyard would be returned to the deck by the effect of a Madolche monster, you can add it to your hand instead, and what do you know, if you have Madolche Ticket on your side of the field, when a Madolche card is returned from your side of the field or graveyard to your hand or main deck by a card effect, you can add a Madolche from your deck to your hand, and if you control a face-up fairy Madolche, you can also also special the monster in face-up attack position. This creates a loop that's really hard to get over, and was really the bane of individuals trying to clear Madolche boards in 2014. Our two pieces of interaction here are going to be Madolche Dessert, which can target 2 effect monsters on the field, including a Madolche, return them to the hand or extra deck, then special Madolche from your hand or extra deck with an attack equal to or less than the returned monster's total original attack. Then if a Madolche card in your graveyard is returned to the deck or the extra deck while this is in your graveyard, it can be part of an Xyz material on a monster that you control. Finally, we're playing 1 Madolche Promenade, which can target a face-up card your opponent controls on Madolche you control or have in your graveyard, negate the effects of the opponent's card, and if you do return your monster to the hand, it can be banished to target a Madolche Xyz and attach a Madolche monster from your hand, deck, or graveyard to it as material. That's important for exactly 1 Xyz that needs a different monster as material. After that, we've got non-engine, 3 copies of Ash Blossom, 3 copies of Fenrir, 1 copy of Nibiru, 1 copy of Mourner, and 1 copy of Valor as our crossout targets, 1 copy of Called By, and triple Infinite Impermanence. In the extra, we've got Sky Thunder. We have Madolche Pudding Cess Chocolate a la mode, which can be Xyz summoned by taking a level 4 or lower Madolche Xyz monster and using it as material, then once per turn, targeting a Madolche in your graveyard, shuffling it into the deck, and if this card has Madolche Pudding Cess as a material, when a Madolche card is returned to the main deck, you can attach a material from this card to special summon a Madolche from your deck in attack position or face down defense position. You'll notice we don't have that. Previously, this was a combo starter, but realistically, you don't really need it now that your end board is going to have a more powerful monster attached. Madolche Teacher Glass Souffle comes up quite frequently. You could detach a material from this card, target a Madolche on the field. It's unaffected by monster effects, and if a Madolche is sent to the graveyard while this card is on the field, you can shuffle up to 2 cards from the graveyard into the deck. It triggers itself, but of course on a new chain, so you can't use it to just DD Crow your opponent. We're playing 3 copies of Queen Tiara-a-la-fraise and 2 copies of Queen tiara-a-la-fraise, followed by 2 copies of Madolche Munard Meowcaron, which when linked summoned adds a Madolche from your deck to your hand. It allows you to target a monster in your graveyard and special summon a Madolche from your hand, shuffling the target back into the deck. We are playing 2 copies of Sistart for protection, 1 copy of SP Little Knight, and 1 Masquerena in the side. We've got 2 Nibiru, 3 Droll and Lockbird, a Change of Heart, double Lightning Storm, a Feather Duster, triple Dark Ruler No More, and triple Evenly Matched. So with that, let's jump into the games. Our first match is up against Tenpai, and I love showing off games versus Tenpai because they're not games so much as Go Fish. Our hand is great, and our opponent hasn't drawn any non-engine. Let's see how far we can go. We're going to begin with the mainline combo. Patetting Sasur into Angeli. We'll activate the effect of the Angeli for a copy of Hoot Cake. We'll activate the Hoot Cake, banishing the Angeli for a copy of Messengelato, then activate the Messengelato in order to grab a Salon. We've not yet normaled, so we're going to go ahead and do that. Let's go into Munard first in order to grab from deck to hand something worth normaling, Mangeline, which will grab us another copy of Messengelato. We'll go Munard here and then summon out that Messengelato. We'll trigger the effect of the Messengelato and also the effect of the Salon as well. That gets us both traps, and then afterwards we can go for the extra normal onto an Angeli. We'll go Sistart into an overlaid Queen Tiramisu into tiara-a-la-fraise before passing back to our opponent. They're going to begin with a copy of Pydra. Pydra's going to grab a Sangen Summoning to their side of the field. They'll flip up the Sangen Summoning and grab a copy of Chundra. They're going to go for the Chundra, at which point we're just going to go ahead and flip this copy of Promenade so we can negate the effect of the Sangen Summoning, making their monsters vulnerable, and then in a new chain activating the effect of the Salon, and in a new chain from that activating tiara-a-la-fraise in order to shuffle the entire board back. They'll go to battle, and they still have the wherewithal to kill us, but we have the Ash for the Sangen Kaiman, so they are going to scoop them up. Oh boy, here we go. Our second match is up against Fiendsmith Tearlament. Not the optimal place to play these cards because Snake Eyes exist, but still quite strong. You can see our opponent not only has a lot of really good cards in their hand, they also have the new Multi-Charmy Perulia. Very cool, very cool. We've got a Nibiru, an Imperm, and a Fenrir, which is really what you want to see. You know, Patetting Sasur, a 1-card starter, plus 3 pieces of non-engine is pretty good. Our opponent's going to go for Fiendsmith into Tractus into Lurie. They're going to go ahead and summon this Lurie, then go into a Requiem. Requiem effect is going to grab them a Fiendsmith from deck. Then afterwards, they can activate the Fiendsmith in graveyard to summon itself. From here, they can go into a Sequentia, activate the effect of the Sequentia, and get Impermed, my good man. Okay, great news. They'll go Tractus here to perform a fusion summon in a Lacrimosa, then they'll activate Lacrimosa to bring back this copy of Fiendsmith and make a Beatrice. Beatrice will trigger here, and they're going to send a copy of Rhinoheart. They'll activate the effect of the Rhinoheart, pitching this copy of Havness Rhinoheart effect in order to send a Shiren. Shiren effect in order to send these back into the deck for a copy of Garura. They'll go SP Little Knight into Garura Draw, then they'll normal summon this copy of Mudora, and oh, thank God we have Nibiru. They're going to SP Little Knight to tag some stuff out, but the damage is kind of already done. They'll go Lacrimosa here in order to ding us for 12, but pass back, getting their Beatrice with 0 materials and the SP Little Knight. Not a ton to play through. We'll go for Patetting Sasur here. We're going to activate the effect in order to grab a copy of Angeli from deck. Then we'll activate Angeli's effect to go into Hoot Cake. We'll activate the effect of the Hoot Cake, banishing this copy of Angeli. Mudora here is going to shuffle back the Angeli. That is pretty good, but hardly game-winning. We'll go to the battle phase to wipe this copy of SP Little Knight, and now we can just play safe. We'll go for Munard in order to grab ourselves a really powerful monster, then summon summon it back with the effect of Flourishing Hills so that we can grab a Salon. We'll activate the effect of the Salon and the effect of Quacky Ducky in order to bring back the Patetting Chasseur, and then we can use Munard in order to cycle for the Angeli. Next, we'll go for Salon's effect in order to set this copy of Promenade, and we'll make a fresh Sistart into Queen Tiramisu. Let's go ahead and shuffle everything we can. Unfortunately, I don't think we're allowed to shuffle that token, but we'll make tiara-a-la-fraise and pass back to our opponent on a very small Nibiru token. They're going to begin with a copy of Fiendsmith, shuffling back the Lacrimosa into a Rhino Heart. That's going to send a Havness. They'll activate the effect of the Havness, and we will activate the effect of tiara-a-la-fraise. That's going to go ahead and shuffle both of their monsters that are targetable back, and they do still have something they can summon, but Mud Dragon isn't exactly what they wanted to cook. We'll go for Salon here. They're going to go to the battle phase to go into fresh Sistart. We'll just let it go, and they'll pass turn. We should be able to win from this position. Quacky Ducky's an interesting draw. We're going to go Ticket and go straight to the battle phase right over this Mud Dragon. I really don't feel the need to commit any further. They draw another Perulia. They'll activate Fiendsmith effect here in order to summon itself back and go to Requiem once again. Requiem here is going to grab the Fiendsmith, and afterwards they'll activate Requiem targeting the Fiendsmith before they go for the Fiendsmith effect to contest the Queen tiara-a-la-fraise. Okay, time to actually commit. We'll go for Promenade here, and because we have both Ticket and Salon on our side of the field, we can trigger both of those going into the Dessert and into a Patetting Chasseur. We'll trigger the effect of the Patetting Chasseur in order to summon the Angeli, at which point they go into Sequentia. Sequentia will trigger in order to make Lacrimosa, and then they'll try and activate the effect of the Lacrimosa to bring back the Fiendsmith. From here, they can go ahead and shuffle all those cards back into the deck. We'll put both of them back and leave them on a lowly Sequentia, at which point they will concede. So it's time for game 3, and you know what that means, a best of 3 versus meta. Our opponent's playing what else but Fiendsmith Snake Eye? Well, we've drawn 3 pieces of non-engine and 2 starters, and they've drawn 3 pieces of non-engine and 2 starters. Let's see whose 3 pieces of non-engine and 2 starters will reign supreme. We're just doing the mainline combo here, getting 2 Messengelato until we hit an Effect Veiler. Oof, that's rough. We'll go into Queen tiara-a-la-fraise and just hope for the best with 2 Imperm set. I am feeling pretty good. They're going to begin with a copy of Wanted Seeker of Sinful Spoils. They're going to go Fiendsmith here, and they can Fiendsmith for Engine. It just depends on what they want to do. They're going to begin with a copy of Lurie into Requiem effect in order to grab Fiendsmith, and then Diabellstar the Black Witch. They'll activate the effect to go into an OSS, and we will tiara-a-la-fraise all of these back, at which point our opponent will DD Crow. That unfortunately prevents us from shuffling both back. They OSS and we Ash Blossom. I'm feeling really good about this. Unfortunately, the Wanted Seeker of Sinful Spoils does draw an Oak, which is disastrous. They're going to go ahead and go Fiendsmith effect and Requiem to equip to it, then Fiendsmith in order to contest the Queen tiara-a-la-fraise. That forces an Imperm out from us, and then afterwards they can go ahead and normal summon the Oak, use its effect to go into Ash, and trigger the effect of the Ash. We have to Imperm this or we are toast, but we may be toast anyway because now they have the ability to go into Sequentia, activate the effect in order to perform a fusion summon. Here's Lacrimosa, here's Promethean Princess, and now we're just off to the races. We'll take 12. Promethean Princess brings back the Oak. They'll activate the effect of the Oak, targeting the Ash, and then afterwards they will activate the effect of the Ash in order to go into the Snake Eyes Flamberge Dragon in hand. Funny. They're going to go for the push on Queen tiara-a-la-fraise and go into Amblo Whale. How do you have room for that? Into Masquerena, into the battle phase. Things aren't looking fantastic. This deck really needs 2 cards to get off to the races, but there are some good top decks remaining. Let's see if we get one. That is really not it. Okay, let's go next. So it's time for game 2, and big mistake. Our opponent's drawn 4 pieces of engine and 1 piece of non-engine. Tisk tisk. It's a 2 and 3 or nothing. We've drawn pretty well. We do have a copy of Fenrir, and unfortunately this Hootcake is a walking Veiler target, but thankfully we do have an extender. We're going to go for the Flourishing Hills for a copy of Quacky Ducky. We'll activate the effect in order to summon back the Angeli, and now of course we can just link off into a copy of Meow Karan. We'll activate the effect in order to grab a Messengelato, then the second effect to summon it to our side of the field. We'll activate the effect of the Messengelato to grab a Salon. We will activate that Salon, and then we can perform an additional normal summon into the Patetting Chasseur, into the Tiramisu, into the Queen tiara-a-la-fraise. Let's set 1 card and pass back to our opponent. It's an Imperm. They will activate it targeting Madolche Queen tiara-a-la-fraise. That forces out the Promenade from us. They'll chain Wanted Seeker of Sinful Spoils, and at point of resolution, we of course can trigger the effect of the Salon in order to grab Dessert for next turn. First, our opponent's going to go for the Fiendsmith. That grabs Tractus. They'll go Tractus for Fabled Lurie, and they'll summon the Lurie from the graveyard. We're going to go for the Fenrir here. I don't know if it's right, but it feels frustrating for them to be able to do the Fiendsmith line. They're going to set the field into Snake Eye Diabellstar, into Diabellstar the Black Witch, into OSS. We're going to let that resolve, go to Snake Eye Ash, and then activate the Ash for a copy of Poplar. They'll activate the effect of the Poplar. The reason I'm letting them get this far is I'm afraid the last card in hand is Bonfire, and what do you know? That is exactly what happens. They do get to activate the effect of the Wanted in the graveyard, which just draws them into Wanted. Then they can go for the Bonfire, and they have it normaled into an Oak. Oak here with the field spell can get them Flamberge, and even though they can get the Flamberge into the graveyard by cycling the Diabellstar, unfortunately for them, they don't have 2 materials because we shuffled them back. As a result, they're just going to go main phase 2, set 1, and pass, and we should be able to clean it up from this position. That's a good draw. We will go for the Meow Karan here. let's normal some of the Hoot Cake. They'll go Wanted Seeker of Sinful Spoils for a Diabell Star. We'll go for the Hoot Cake. They'll go for the Flamberge Dragon just to get another blocker up. We'll go ahead and summon a Patetting Saussure. From this position, we can activate the effect of the Patetting Saussure for a Messengelato, whose effect will trigger, and grab us a copy of Ticket. Let's go for the dessert, targeting the Meowcaron and the Oak, and we'll go into a fresh Sistart here, back into the Meowcaron. That's going to enable us to get a Mangeline into a Ticket, into an extra normal, into the Mangeline, which will allow us to grab an Angeli. Let's normal that Angeli, activate the effect, go into a Messengelato, and of course, no once per turn here. Let's go for the Chateau, overlay for a Queen Tiramisu, activate the effect, shuffle these two suckers back, and I haven't done the math, but I'm pretty sure this is lethal. We'll fire the Chateau, which is 500 to all Madolches after resolving the effect of Ticket and Salon. But you know what? For good measure, let's also bring a Patetting Saussure to the party. We'll go to the battle phase, get in for 19, 21, 28, and that should be enough. So it's time for that all-important Game 3, and my old nemesis in the grip. 3 pieces of non-engine looks good, but we don't really have a starter. This Pot of Prosby has to resolve, and it's going to have to do so through a Droll. Unfortunately, our opponent has a copy of Bonfire to contest this Imperm. They're going to go Poplar into the Field Spell into, of course, Snake Eyes Diabell Star, into the Moon. From here, they can activate the effect of the Snake Eyes Diabell Star, and now it's time to just do it. We will Ash the Requiem, but they just have so much extension. OSS into Oak from hand isn't ideal, but it is enough. They're going to go ahead and set that Poplar, and then special summon that Ash, activate the effect of the Oak, sending the Poplar for a Flamberge Dragon into an IP Masquerena into the Flamberge effect in order to summon Ash and Oak, and from here, the Promethean Princess. We'll bring back the Flamberge, go into an Amblo Whale. This Flamberge target the Masquerena and pass turn. Not the flashiest board, but still a really good one. That's one of the better draws remaining in our deck, this Patetting Saussure. They're going to go for the Field Spell. We do go for the Fenrir here. Maybe correct to play around Droll post board, but I really do want to be able to fire the Fenrir if they have a Droll on res. They're going to chain Ash, and unfortunately, I think it's probably time to scoop him up. So we're back with the deck, and shoot, I guess they needed longer in the oven. Let's do the pros and cons. First, the pros. 1. The new kitties give you a way to extend further and search further within the deck, and alongside the Vernisylphs, this gives the deck ample material to get to its end board. 2. While we're talking about the end board, the new end board with the addition of a-la-fraise means you now have an extremely powerful interrupt with the ability to shuffle 2 cards non-targeting from your opponent's field, backed up by a negate and a bounce trap. That's hard for any deck to get through. And 3, the original tiramisu is just as strong going second. Being able to get her effect pretty much guarantees that you win, and the deck gets to play other going second cards like the Vernisylphs, Extenders, and Fenrir. And the cons. 1. The deck is weak to hand traps. Playing too many Salon increases your chance of bricking on spells instead of names or having dead Vernisylphs, but you also need to be able to see an Extender to play through most hand traps, and only really specific hands are going to be able to play through 2. Droll is devastating, and paired with another hand trap, it likely just ends your turn. You can play Cross Out and Called by the Grave to prevent this for lower impact hand traps, but unless you draw an incredibly good hand for an early Glass Souffle, cards like Nibiru will kill you. 2. Most of the deck's going second capacity in Engine requires it to be able to establish 2 monsters on field, which is kind of rare these days. Fenrir and Board Breakers do make this more of a reality, but decks like Branded and Chimera, specifically great at removing field presence, can wipe you off of the map. And 3, finally, due to the need for outside engine extenders and crossout, you don't have a lot of space to run defensive cards, so you're going to struggle to fit in 12 to 15 like other decks in the format get to. Overall, the new support is a real sweetening of the pot, but this dessert isn't yet deserving of a Michelin star this meta. So that's that. These 10-minute testings are subsidized by, and occasionally suggested by, my patrons. So I'm going to rattle off the names of some of the higher tier ones right now. Thank you all so much. Without you, this wouldn't be possible. Slifer274, Elena Tincher, Alex Perea, Allison Elliott, Ali, Brett Henry, Canner, Seaweed, Darkmaster Zork, Derpin Dragon, Devin Senpai, DJ Elefante, FPS Lord Derp, Gravity, John Piet, Juan Cruz Avila Zati, Night Mary, Legal Rights, Lockstone, Luis Hernandez, Master of Faster, Matthew M. Derezzo, MBT Play Madolche, Mike Carlotti, N54 Lionheart, Nebula Yu-Gi-Oh!, Project Mercury, Rose Lapine, Troy Says By Erasure is Gay, Vincent Storm, Who's Nick, Wonder Waffle, Your Pot of Greed Does What, and Yuki.